Hello, I'm Judith Green. I work for Somerset Libraries Service. Pleased to see you back. This is episode 4 of Food for Thought, which is a video series linking baking and reading, which I hope you're enjoying. How did you get on with the Irish soda bread? Was it tasty? Did you manage to make enough? That's the other thing. People tend to eat it quite fast, but that's good. Now, I've been able to get some yeast recently and some white bread flour, so I'm going to try one of my favourite recipes, which is called Maritimers Bread. Normally I'd make this as wholemeal, but I'm going to try it with white flour today because that's what I've got, and I'm sure it'll still taste really good. This is a recipe from Jane Mason's excellent All You Need Is Bread book. Now, this book's actually physically on the shelves of the Somerset Library Service, but unfortunately it's not on ebook, so when the libraries reopen, get it. I'll be recommending a book for you to read in the meantime later on. This recipe is from Canada's east coast, where very hardy people went over from Scotland and took their recipes and traditions with them, including the use of oats to fill out more expensive wheat flour. So this is a good, solid, sustaining bread. It'll keep you going fishing in the North Atlantic all day in foul weather. There's 2 stages. There's the soaking stage and then the mixing and baking stage. We're going to do the soaking stage first. Altogether, it'll take about 8 hours to soak and then maybe 4 hours rising and baking after that. So you're looking at a total time of 12 hours. You can start in the evening, which I often do, soak it overnight for 8 hours and then start off with the baking and rising 4 hours. So it will be ready for lunchtime or whatever. Today I'm starting at breakfast time because that just happens to suit me better. So what you're going to need for now in terms of ingredients is half a mug of porridge oats, jumbo oats if you can get them, but ordinary ones are fine, a large handful of raisins, half a mug of boiling water, 1 teaspoonful of salt, 1 tablespoonful of black treacle, and a tablespoon of lard or butter. And we're going to put those in a bowl and mix them together. Later on, you'll be needing 300 grams of white or wholemeal bread flour, and 3/4 teaspoon of instant powdered yeast plus 150 grams of water. We don't need those for now. So now I'm going to start off measuring out the ingredients to soak. So 1 bowl. Now we're going to do half a mug of porridge oats. It's approximate, as long as you have matching quantities of oats and water, that's fine. So that's about half a mug full. Large handful of raisins. If you've got a sweet tooth, you can put a larger handful, otherwise just put an ordinary large handful. There we are, about like that. And a teaspoon of salt. Tablespoon of treacle. Black treacle is always tricky to manage, so I'm just going to go at it with a teaspoon and estimate. And my estimate is that that's about a tablespoon. It's very sticky stuff, so I'm not going to get involved with measuring it more accurately than that. Scrape that into the bowl. And then someone gets to lick the spoon if they're lucky. And we want about a tablespoonful of lard. I've got a little piece here which is probably just about a tablespoon. Again, the measurements aren't too accurate. So you can use butter if you prefer, or you can use coconut oil, hard coconut fat instead. So I'm now going to put my half cup of boiling water on there. So that's about the same as the amount of oats. You probably can't see that very well, but it is. That's going onto the bowl, and I'm going to stir that round, and it'll melt the lard and soak into the oats. By soaking them in this way, they meld into the mixture better, the oats that is. And you don't get those kind of gritty bits that you'd have otherwise. just breaking up the lard a bit because the water's not quite boiling. If you take it straight out of the kettle, it'll be fine. Good, so that's pretty well mixed up now. Rather runny, so I can't tip it very easily. And then you just cover that over and leave it for around 8 hours. So while we're waiting for that to settle, you've got plenty of time to browse for a suitable book and make a start on it. Now, the obvious choice to go with this book about East Coast fishermen is The Shipping News by Annie Proulx, Proulx, which is about a failing journalist who, after a car accident, takes his young daughters from New York to Newfoundland to set up a new life. It's a comedy, but it has great local detail and very good relationship development. She's a lovely writer, Annie Proulx. On the downside, unfortunately, we don't have that on the e-catalogue. If you know someone who's got it, do borrow it off them. Otherwise, when the libraries are open, borrow it again. And in the meantime, if you'd like to try another book by Annie Proulx, there is one on the e-catalogue called Bad Dirt, which is about Wyoming. And she deals very well with the wide open spaces and sometimes the closed mines that she comes across there. She's a very good writer. As an alternative, on the e-audiobooks, we have a tremendous series by a writer called Patrick O'Brien, O''B''R''I''A''N. It's called the Aubrey-Maturin series, and it's about a ship's captain called Jack Aubrey and his surgeon, Mr. Maturin. This is set in the time of the Napoleonic Wars. Now, I know nothing about sailing ships and the Navy, nor very little about Napoleonic Wars, but once I started reading this series, I was hooked. There are 21 in the series, which is brilliant because, you know, when you started, you've got a lot to go at. Most of them on the e-audiobook catalogue, and the first one is called Master and Commander, and I really would recommend this to you as a book which really conjures up the period it's set in, the manners, life on the ship, and so on. Definitely a good one to go at. Hello again. Well, I hope you've chosen a good book and that you've made a good start on it. We're ready to carry on with our baking now. The bowl's been soaking with the oats and other ingredients for about 8 hours. So here we are. And that's soaked up quite well. That's made quite a thick porridge almost. So I'm going to weigh in the extra ingredients now. And as I said earlier, that's 300 grams of bread flour. I'm using white today. I prefer wholemeal, but we'll see how it comes out with this. So that's 300 grams. There we are. 3/4 of a teaspoon of instant yeast, the very precious stuff. You'll see it's the very fine powdered stuff. It's not the stuff that looks like little tiny beads. This is very, very small. Easy bake, it's sometimes called. We want about 3/4 of a teaspoonful. It's probably about that. Just give that a little stir into the dry flour. And 150 grams of tepid water, or cold water is fine too, just not too hot. 150 grams. There we are. Take the scales out of the way and we'll get mixing. We're shortly going to knead this. We won't use a spoon and work the damp ingredients into the flour. Just keep on working the dry flour into the wet centre, and eventually, if you've been good, it'll start sticking together. If you chose the Patrick O'Brien books, you better start getting ready to make lots of sourdough bread, because it's a very long series, so you'll have plenty of time to do your reading in between. That's beginning to pull together now. And because it's bread flour, it should make an easier dough to manage, but we've tempered that by putting in quite a lot of soggy oats, so it will be a bit of a sticky dough. It'll still cling together, but it'll probably cling to you as well once you get onto the mixing. So sleeves up, badge off, trusty scraper to the ready just in case you need it. And sprinkle the worktop with a little bit of flour and put a little bit extra for emergencies. Last drink of tea before I get all sticky. And we tip this out now. Scrape the rest of the dough into a heap. And give the bowl a quick scrape sound. This is where we get hands-on. Do a little bit of flour on your hands to start off with. And it's the same sort of kneading we did for the sourdough bread, and it's the same sticky, yucky dough. So keep moving it round and twisting. Use a little bit of flour. Check the time. See, once you start actually getting all the ingredients smoothly mixed, it forms a bit more of a respectable dough, but it's still stickier than you would expect for a regular wheat flour and baker's yeast dough. So I'm going to carry on with that now. So I'll turn this off and I'll bring you back at 5 minutes. Okay, well, I've been kneading for 5 minutes now. It's beginning to look a little bit more of a piece. Still very sticky. Don't be afraid of getting sticky fingers. You can always scrape it off at the end, but try not to pick out all the raisins and eat them on the way, otherwise you'll have none left in the bread. So I'll keep on going with that up to the 10-minute point, and then you can come back again. Okay, we're 10 minutes down now. Still sticky, but with a tendency to stick together rather than just stick to your fingers in the worktop. So we're going to put that in the bowl now. So I'm trying to gather it all together as much as I can. Doing a twist helps. And up we go, and into the bowl. This is where the scraper comes in, because there's quite a lot still left on the board. Goes in there. Oops, got the spoon in there. Give your hands a bit of a scrape down. Scrape the worst of it into the bowl, so you're not going short in there. Okay, so there we are in the bowl, and that's going to be covered up and put in a nice warm place by the arbour. And for you, one raisin for me. For you, put your feet up, have a cup of tea, read your book, and I'll see you in 1 to 2 hours. Keep an eye on that, because it can be risen in an hour. It may take longer depending on the temperature. Well, that's just over 2 hours gone by, and the dough's doubled in size now. I've got me a bread tin, which I've greased the same as I did last time, just a small skim of grease. The dough looks quite soft, so I think it'll do better in a tin rather than loose on a baking sheet. Here's the dough. You'll see it's about twice the size it was before. I'm just going to take some flour because it's a soft dough. I'm going to have a reasonable amount of flour on the board for the shaping stage, and a bit of extra spare for emergencies. Tuck the badge away so we don't get it covered in blood dough. Now I'm going to tip this out. You can see all the holes in the dough. It's quite sticky, so you've got to work at getting all the bits out. Right, I'm just going to get that scraper so we don't waste too much. Scrape around the bowl. Makes a big difference. Right. So then we have the dough ready to go, and I'm going to flour my hands fairly generously. I'm going to try and shape this so it'll fit in the tin without too much in the way of complications. So, as I did with the sourdough bread, I'm taking the sides over and tucking them into the middle to make a sort of strong skin across the surface. It will retain the bubbles. So the skin is like the outside of a balloon. It means that the bread can blow up against it rather than just making a formless mass. So I think we'll call that, if I can get that off now. Got a nice sausage shape. Quickly knock off the spare flour and into the tin. There we are. So I'm going to tuck down the edges a little bit, just to make it tidy. And now I'm going to put that in a clean plastic bag. Twist that up so it doesn't lean on the bread. And twist the knot from the top. Keep that well away from the surface because it's a very sticky dough. It'll stick like sellotape if you're not careful. So now I'm going to put that in a warm place. Hopefully that should take about an hour. It should double in size, so it'll just about fill the tin if I've got my timings right. About quarter an hour before the bread's fully risen, you need to turn your oven on at 200 centigrade, and then you'll be ready to put the bread in to bake. So let's just leave that for now and see what happens. Well, it's a quarter of an hour later. I checked a little while ago and the dough was pretty well risen, so I've got the oven heated up to 200 centigrade now. So I'll just get the dough out. Out of the bag carefully so hopefully it won't stick. There we are. So that's filled the tin now, so that's going straight into the oven. And that goes into the oven now for 45 minutes. Just keep an eye on it and then it can come out. Well, it's just under 45 minutes now. I checked it 10 minutes ago and it was looking good. So let's have it out of the oven and see. One very hot round loaf. Out it comes. Just done. I prefer this to be slightly underdone rather than slightly overdone. So that's going to sit there for an hour or so now and cool down. And then when it's ready, we'll cut a slice and see how it comes. Well, it's not quite cool, but I'm getting hungry, so we're going to give it a try. It's quite soft, probably the oats. With crystal. That looks nice. It's nice soft as well. Perfect. I'm just going to try a taste. A bit of butter on the corner. Oh, so good. It is so good. Very tender, not too sweet, hint of raisins. Couldn't say better. So, butter up your slice of bread, sit down with your book and relax and enjoy yourself. I think you've earned it. Or if the mood takes you, pop on your oilskins, jump on a boat and go Atlantic fishing. I hope you've enjoyed this and good luck with your efforts. Let us know how you get on. Any thoughts you have, post them on the Somerset Libraries Wells Facebook page. We'd love to hear from you. And here's to the next episode. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to make next time, so maybe if you've got some suggestions. Bye.